kamba buulire ekintu kimu nti okulonda kwa bonna oba general elections kusinziira ku article 61 clause 2 wakawiro nkaga mwemu wabunyiri wokubiri akagamba nti okulonda kwa bonna kulonda president abakikize mu parliament abakulembeze wa government z'ebitundu kunaabeerangawo nga wabula ennaku 122 ng'ekisanja kya government kiggwewo naye nga mu nnaku 3 ezisooka ennaku 122 ekisanja kya government kigwawo nga 12 ogwokutaano 26 kati obala ennaku 122 ng'odde mabega ojja kwesanga ng'oli ku January 10-12 awo kiza mateeka nakugamba nti bala ennaku 3 kuva 12 January ng'ogenda mu maaso okulonda kwa president ba member of parliament ba district chairpersons ba mayors ba magombolola ba town council na ba councillors bonna balina okukolebwa mu nnaku eza 3 sebo akakawayiro tekakyusibwa okiraba wadde sente electoral commission obwetabeera sente government erina kulonda sente parliament batuyise tubeere ne bitulina okulambika ebikwata ku sente zitwetaaga nga akakiiko k'ebyokulonda mu nteekateeka eya general elections okulonda kwa bonna tusigazizayo emyezi nga 9 okulaba nti okulonda okwo okubeerawo omwezi ogw'olubereberye mwaka ogujja naye netugamba nti waliwo sente zikyabulako zitwetaaga mu mbalirira yaffe finance bagezezaako batuwadde omwaka ogujja ogw'ebyensimbi gwa 2025-26 batuwadde obuwumbi 564 bwe batuwadde naye sente tugamba nti waliwo sente zikyabulako obuwumbi nga 179 n'ekyo tuze wano mu kakiiko ne tulaga mu enkozesebwa y'essente ezo wabuzi zeetaaga biki bye zirina okukola n'ekyo akakiiko nikeeyama nti kagenda okusisinkana ab'ekitongole k'ebyensimbi ba Ministry of Finance basobole obalungamya ku embeera eneriwo okulaba nti akakiiko k'ebyokulonda tufuna essente zitwetaaga okutambuza emirimu gyaffe. Obuuma bwa ubosi bwe baali batuwadde buyina ensonga kwegamba ekisooka twakizudde nti battery ez'obuuma obwo already zikendedde amaanyi ate nga tebulina kye bukola kati twamaze okutegeeza ekikwata bulina n'ensonga endala zisobola kuyingiramu kati naye tutegeeza abakwatibwako nti obuuma buno oyinza obutakola twamaze okutegeeza minisita waffe minisita wa justice and constitutional affairs ensonga eyo naye n'asitukiramu n'agitwala ndowooza tulinda kiki kinaava mu kabineti okulaba kiki banaasalawo naye kirina okutegeeza bannayuganda nti okulonda okugenda okubeera 26 obuuma obwo bulina okubeerawo ku buli polling station nga bwe kyali mwaka gwa 21 mukulonda ku mwaka gwa 21 n'okulonda ku mwaka gwa 2016 obuuma bulina okubeerawo busobole okuyamba akakiiko oba okuyamba tutegeere nti mwami Muzanganda aze ku polling station eni ddala mulonzi polling station eni yeewandiisa nga omulonzi bw'amala kumanyirwa n'ekinkumu kati kimubeera kizibu okudda bw'abanga ayagala okudda okulonda akooma kali kalaga nti walonze dda tojja kukkirizibwa kudda mu kulonda wano waba ogenda ku polling station endala n'ogezaako kulonda akuuma kajja kugamba nti gwe toli mulonzi ku polling station eni genda tokkirizibwa kulonda.
Mwetaaga sente mmeka okugula obuuma obwo mugenda okukozesa?
Lwokuba nti twakizudde mu biseera bino kubanga obuuma obwo twabukwasibwa kuba twabufuna kuva mu ubosi mu mwezi gwa lubereberye mwaka guno mwezi gwa January mu mwaka guno kandi naffe ne tutandika okukakasa ddala bukola oba bulina ensonga katwakizudde mu biseera bino mabegako nti bulina ensonga kakati gye tuliko kwe kulaga nti bwe batugenda okugula obuuma bwaffe ku lwaffe sente zimeka zitwetaagisa era kawefu tuliko katulimbalirira eyo era wiiki ejja weneetuukira tujja kuba tumaze okubalirira era parliament era nabo batugambye tugende tubalirire tulabe kiki kyetaagisa okulaba nti obuuma obwo tugula obuuma obupya si kukozesa buli bwa ubosi kubanga tukizudde tebujja kukola tebujja tuyamba ne tujja kuba tutegeeza eggwanga nti obuuma obutugenda kugula obutwetaaga bwetaaga ssente era bujja kugula ssente buzito naye kati ekyo tunakituukako.
Ekisembayo okuva mu nze owagidde ekiteeso kya bubaka ekyokufuula okulonda mandatory nga bwe kiri mu mawanga amalala musingako n'ekirala.
Amawanga amalala gatusingako mu nkulaakulana bw'okulonda kwa mandatory mu Luganda tukiyita tutya kwa buwaze. Waliwo amawanga gatusingako mu nkulaakulana kulonda kwa buwaze kubanga twonoona ssente nnyingi gwe balirira. Kakati twalaze akakiiko nti okulonda kwa 21 ku abalonzi abantu abali ku lukala lw'abalonzi obukadde 18 abalonda pulezidenti baali 15.59 ku 100 baali nga bukadde 10 oba 11. Kakati obukadde buli 9 tebwalonda. Ate bw'ogenda mu kulonda kwa gavumenti z'ebitundu wala ku gavumenti ate ne kiyitirira abalonda abantu abalonda abakulembeze gavumenti z'ebitundu okutwalirwa wamu baali bitundu 35 ku 100 35%. Kiba kitegeeza nti obululu obwo bwonna bwe twakuba nga tubalirira nti abalonzi bali bukadde 20 abagenda kwenyigira ku mulonda kwa president oba ba member of parliament oba ba district chairpersons obona bufu katobo ndozo oba bali bukozesa oba simanyi ere biri eyo kati tebitu kati okulonda tugenda ko kati tugenda kuba obupapula bulala bupya bwa ballot papers empya ne sente hizo sente za muwi wa musolo kubanga sente ze tukozesa mu bululu ekisooka tubukubire bwero wa Uganda. Mu Uganda bwero wa Uganda tetukozesa sente zaffe zende zituyina wano tukozesa za dola oba kiki noki sente nyingi zifuluma naye ate abantu bwe bati bavuddeeyo ne bajja ne balonda kibinyo kakati botunyange kawetu abantu abalonda abantu bali emitwalo okusinzira ku lukalo lw'abalonzi bali emitwalo 19 n'omusobi naye abalonda tebawera n'emitwalo eno. Kati nimwebuuza kati lwaki abantu tebavaayo ne balonda kiki nnyo kiki tebakyalina ssuubi oba kiki ebyo bitwebuuza naffe ne tugamba member parliament kati eki kibuuzo temukiteeka eri akakiiko k'ebyekulonda kokka nammwe mwe mulondebwa abantu abalonzi lwaki temubakubiriza lwaki temuba sensitizinga oba mobilizinga bajje mu bungi bakozesa obuyinza bwabwe bwe musemateeka kubanga musemateeka agambye enti obuyinza buli eri abantu Uganda abantu be basalawo nga beyagalira kyeyagalire ani ajja kubeera mukulembeze omukulonda kwa mazima n'obwenkanya. Kati abantu bwe batebavuddeeyo kitegeeza nti obuyinza bwabwe oba tebamanyi makulu gali mu buyinza bwe balina mu ssemateeka oba kiki n'okirina okubiriza Bannayuganda nti bwe oyagala eggwanga lyo libeere mu mbeera y'okulakulana mu butebenkebu ate bubeere n'abakulembeze abatuufu vaayo olonde.
Songa ennongosereza zireetebwa mu teeka muyinza odduwagiramu ng'akakiiko ebyokulonda.
Kakati kisinziira ku teeka ki ndongosereza ki ebekoleddwa kubanga kakati jjukira nti tulina ebintu bingi bye tumaze okutambuza mu programu obubaka bw'ofube w'okulonda kwa 2006. Kati tugenda okutandika kati okutandika ennaku 17 tujja kutegeeza Bannayuganda kati tugenda kwanjula register betumaliriza mu mwezi gw'okutaano gw'omukaaga tujja kuba tutandika okulonda kwa special interest groups abavubuka abantu abakulu abaliko obulema and so on. Kakati bwe banga twatambudde dda ate mwe ne muleetete ennongosereza mu tteeka oba etteeka eripya era twetaaga okudda emabega olwetaaga okwongera ku ssente bwe tugamba nti mutusonyiwe eryo etteeka titujja liteeka mu nkola kati wabula tulinde okulonda kwa 2031 betunaliteeka mu nkola.
Data wa miaka 10 gomugenda okozesa mu kulonda kuno 2014 abagamba mu contesting baagala muyimize process to evaluation no cost planning
tetusobola kamba buulira ekintu kimu nti okulonda kwa bonna oba general elections kusinziira ku article 61 clause 2 oba kawiro nkaaga mwemu olunyiri olwokubiri akagamba nti okulonda kwa bonna kulonda pulezidenti abakiikize mu palamenti abakulembeze wa gavumenti z'ebitundu kunaabeerangawo nga wabulayo ennaku 122 ng'ekisanja kya gavumenti kiggwewo naye nga mu nnaku 3 ezisooka ennaku 122 ekisanja kya gavumenti kigwawo nga 12 ogwokutaano 26 kati obala ennaku 122 ng'odde mabega ojja kwesanga ng'oli ku January 10-12 awo amateeka n'akugamba nti bala ennaku 3 kuva 12 January ng'ogenda mu maaso okulonda kwa president ba member of parliament ba district chairpersons ba mayors ba magombolola ba town council na ba councillors bonna balina okukolebwa mu nnaku eza 3 sebo akakawayiro tekakyusibwa okiraba wadde sente electoral commission weetabeera ne sente gavumenti erina kulonda sente kulaba nti commission etuukiriza obuyinza oba bwabaweebwa mu ssemateeka nfe tugamba nti tetusobola kudde mabega ate tuddemu tulinde iki oba gundi obungi bw'abantu okusinziira ku bubbosi nga bwe naabufulumya ate tuddeyo ku gurawundi tutandika ate okuddamu okulongoosa ebifo birongo okuteereza ebifo birondebwa obudde obutebukyaliwo ssebo tetubwina tetujja kuddayo kota tujja kati data wetukozesa okusalawo ng'ekitundu kino kyetaaga bakansala bameka wetwakozeseza kubanga twamaze dde omukozesa okubala kw'abantu okwaliwo mu mwaka 2014 kwetukozesa kubanga we tulina enamba entuufu naye neyafulumizibwa Joel tenafuluma bulungi
twagala okumanyako lwaki muzize data wa ubosi
anti kakati erepoota era singa ndeeteza fondiwagereza data we baaweereza naye ne banyonnyola ne bagamba nti data we tuwadde kati si yo yonna we tuwadde it's not the final data yakoma ku district obungi bw'abantu bwe baatuwa mu report bukoma ku district naye ffe bwe tubanga tugenda ku ground okutereeza ebifo ebyetaaga bakulembeze ku gavumenti twetaaga data wegombolola twetaaga data womuluka kati data yonna taliiwo kubanga kansala okiikirira ki okitegeera kakati ne tugamba nti twetaaga obungi bw'abantu okusinziira ku muluka okusinziira ku gombolola tulyoke tukole ki tutereeze bulungi ebifo bironderwamu n'abakansala beetaagiswa mu kifo okusinziira ku bungi batuwadde naye kabwebanga tebuliiwo ate nga tulina kutuukiriza omulimu gwaffe mu mateeka kiba kitegeeza nti tulina okukozesa data aliwo amanyiddwa yaliwa 2014 sika kodyo ka electoral commission banangi sika kodyo njagala babulira bana Uganda sika kodyo ka electoral commission tulina okugondera mateeka katulindirire ubosi bwe bamaze okufulumya byonna ebyetaagisa byava mu kubala abantu naye ffe nga kaki tujja kuba twatambudde dda kakati baasi bwe bange bakugamba ennyonyi egenda kusimbula saawa 2 z'okumakya nesimbula nebuuka kakati n'otuuka ku kisaawe saawa 4 oyinza ogamba nti owange musooke mukomeyo nange ntuuse wano mujje munone no banoonyereza okutwala banoonyereza biki byali mu kalulu ka Kawempe si bakozi baffe bokka nga bwe tumaze nga bwe tujje nga tutegeezebwa ebitongole ebinoonyereza ebitongole bya gavumenti binoonyereza byaliwo ani yagikola biki ebintu byagenda ne bonoona ku polling station ani yabikola uko kunoonyereza kuliwo okwo naye ba officer baffe nabo babakubanga ffe twali tukulira omulimu ogwo babasabye babagambye muje mukole statement tiri yakwatibwa yenna nedda babagambye bugambi jangu mutubule gwe wali kazo Angola kiki kyaliyo gwe wali Embogo kiki kyaliyo gwe wali Egindi kiki kyaliyo basobola banyonyola abanoonyereza nenda balabe kiki kola fete tukopa ndoza nabo tebakopa kubanga bo bagamba bagamba tugenda mu kitundu oba mu kyalo tulinayo ba member baffe ne babawandika mu register zaabwe nga ba member baki ba NRM for electoral commission ne tugamba nti teeka litugamba ngo tuba tugenda mu kulonda tulina okuteekawo enteekateeka enakkiriza Abannayuganda abaweza myaka 18 abateewandiisa nga balonzi bajje beewandiise nga balonzi, nga batubuulira batulaga we beetaaga okulondera. Ekitegeera naye ffe bwe tuba tukola omulimu gwaffe tetusooka kwebuuza ku NRM, NRM tesooka kwebuuza ku ffe bwe bakola emirimu gyabwe. Okujjako kibalina okumanya nti programu ya Electoral Commission ey'okulonda eri bweti, naffe tulina okutambuza emirimu gyaffe tuleme kusigala emabega, kubanga ffe tetulinda kibiina kyonna. Nedda, ffe programu yaffe tugitambuza nga bweri, naye ebibiina bwe biba biina kibiina kukola okulaba nti beenyigira mu kulonda kuno, kitegeeza balina okugoberera programu yaffe gye batutongozza. Bwe basigala emabega ebyo byabwe tetulina kye bakolera.
Assure the members that come 2026 polling day, we are going to have biometric voter verification and identification system. It is a part of our budget. The system is in our budget. We are talking of the kits. The system itself is already part of the budget. And I think the procurement process is going on. What we are talking about are the kits themselves, which will be deployed at every polling station. There is no way we are going to have an election without biometric voter verification, which is not the same as biometric voting or electronic voting. No, that's not electronic voting. We are talking about identifying a voter, every voter biometrically at a polling station. So that, in fact, Honorable Chair, I think it is also being proposed or mooted that we should make it mandatory, that we should make the biometric identification process mandatory, that every voter who comes to a polling station must be biometrically identified by that kit. If he or she is not, then he or she may not vote. That is one way of ruling out about staffing, ruling out all these other things and so on, about multiple voting, ballot staffing. So I want to assure you, I want to assure you, honorable members, that we shall have a biometric system, and depending on what the law will say, the proposals that make it mandatory, but that will have to be enshrined in the law, because the current legal framework now says the Electoral Commission may use technology, and that's what we've been using, the biometric voter verification machine or kit at every polling station since 2016. But we are not going back, Honorable Secretary or Honorable Katundu, we are not going back to the IDUD process where you just go and you vote at 7, then you go and wash off the ink, you come back at 4 and
order, Chair. This direct confrontation or friendly fire between the
order, okay, just
order. This noble brother should.
After every general election cycle, the Commission carries out what we call post-evaluation process on what, by establishing or ascertaining what precisely took place, where there were issues, where there were shortcomings and so on, or where there were good practices. And one of the areas we look at is possible reform. I think we did make our own proposals on the areas that required reform from our perspective, all right? And we submitted them to the relevant entities, but we have not yet had any feedback. And also other stakeholders, members of the public, civil society organizations, and even I think Parliament had their views on possible reforms in the law. And that's why we keep emphasizing that if any reforms are forthcoming, let them be timely. But now we have gone ahead, we have already implemented some of these activities. We are heading for nomination of members of Parliament on the 16th and 17th of September. Now, if you bring a reform that, one, has a budgetary implication, two, has a practical orientation where we have to go back on the ground, then it distorts the whole roadmap activities. But going forward now, I think if we are going to have mandatory voter verification and identification, we must amend the law. And I think something maybe is being considered in that regard. Now, the the number of voters, the registered voters go up every cycle, but the voter turn-up goes down. What is the problem? Honorable members, I think that should be a common concern for all of us, not only the Electoral Commission. You are the people who benefit from this high turn-up of voters. Why are the voters low? I wish I had come with the statistics here to show you what the voting pattern was in your areas. In some areas, it was as low as 40%, and so on and so forth. Why? Because for us as a commission, we are saying that when we have a register of 20 million registered voters, we print ballot papers premised on the number of voters on the register. We don't actually print the exact number of 20 million. We print over and above 20 million. In case a voter spoils a ballot paper unintentionally, the law allows him or her to go back for another one, provided he has not yet cast it in the box. So now, when you have like local government, and we have 4 rounds of elections: presidential, directly elected woman member of parliament, and member of parliament, and I mean directly elected member of parliament and woman member of parliament. On day 1, 3 elections, and each of those we print over 20 million ballot papers, segregated to the number of voters in the constituency. Now, when you have 35% for local government, it means the ballot paper, 65% of the ballot papers printed by the Electoral Commission are wasted. Yes, it's kasasiro, and that is money. We don't print these ballot papers in Uganda, and we print them outside Uganda, where we pay in the dollars. So the issue of low voter turn-up should be of grave concern to everybody. That's why we say, well, the commission has been the commission has been tasked that maybe you don't carry out sufficient voter education, adequate voter education. Therefore, the people are not informed. People are not aware. Really, people in Uganda are not aware of a presidential election. Last time we had 59.3% voter turnout for presidential elections, and parliamentary maybe. Is anybody in Uganda who does not get to know about a presidential election? Really? So I think the issue is not per se lack of information or sensitization. It might be something else which all of us have to address. Maybe civic education. Do the people appreciate that Article 1 of the Constitution says sovereign power belongs to the people of Uganda, who shall exercise that power freely and voluntarily by electing leaders of their choice? Maybe they don't appreciate the sovereignty of their sovereignty. So that is something, maybe working with Uganda Human Rights Commission, who are supposed to carry out civic education, and other entities, even the parliament. How much are our people aware of the power of their vote? That's why some of them reduce it to 1,000 shillings. When I was in Lira, I asked the people, how many of you have Gweno in your homes? They all raise, the LOC chairperson raise their home hands. How much is Gweno now if I come to your home? Say the 35,000. Very good. If I come with 1,000, will you give it? Say no, we'll chase you away. Then, but when it comes to your vote, why do you allow 1,000 shillings? It means your chicken is more expensive than yourself, because So, honorable members, the issue of low voter turn-up is of grave concern. I think we need to address this jointly across board. Chair,
Chairman, can next time go to maybe not Lira now.
Chair. Chair, I just wanted to ask the Chairman, Electoral Commission, and the commissioners following his submission, because there are a number of factors I think mandatory. When we were doing the by-elections, was it for Oyam, Omoro, the late Olanya? Omoro, yes. I went to the polling station near the late's home. I found some diplomats, I think Belgian ambassador and another one, they had come to observe the elections. And I think one of them told me, but why don't you make voting compulsory in my country? It is compulsory. So it is compulsory. It is up to the members of this parliament. You can amend the law to make it compulsory. Because really, why should we waste resources and the people don't turn up to vote. It cannot be intimidation. In some of these areas, there's no intimidation at all. I don't think in, I don't know, West Sudan, I don't think there's intimidation. Madiokoro, I don't think. I was in Madiokoro for by-elections, and the police who had been deployed that day to manage security, they spent the whole day sleeping on their pickups because there was no need for them to go anywhere. There was no violence, there was no intimidation, there was no chaos. So I think there's something bigger than that. We can make voting mandatory in this country. Yeah. Now, honorable members, I want to move on to the other questions that were raised by honorable the youth for youth. PPDA and I think the secretary maybe will answer that on how do we respond to ensuring that the special interest groups also benefit from this PPDA in line with the PPDA rules and so on. I think Secretary can talk about that. Now, on the issue, on the questions raised by Honorable Katuntu, I agree that maybe Minister of Finance needs to be brought on board to appreciate the importance of availing funds to the Commission as required. I've already talked about the UBOS tablets, newly created districts where it was also put on us that, look, these cities are here, you need to organize elections. But as we have said, and you know, when it comes even to staffing, honorable members, some of the staffing positions of the Commission are statutory. They are statutory in the law. For example, the law says that every district, the Commission shall appoint a district election administrator / returning officer for every district, and also appoint an assistant returning officer for every district. It is in the law. It's mandatory. But now these cities, up to now, we have not. And we are going to the general. So how have we been managing the current crop of staff? We say, can you manage here? And they sit as, in Terego, for example, honorable members, which is a new district, the DEA or district election administrator sits in the Arua office in Arua City. Now, how are we rendering services to the people of Terego, which is about, I'm told, 45 kilometers from Arua? They have to come to Arua office where the district returning officer is seated in order to get services. And yet, it should be on the ground. That's what we do. We make sure that we have these offices in every district. But because we don't have the facilities, we have to rent premises, we have to employ the district returning officer or the district election administrator, his or her assistant, a driver, and a secretary, and get a vehicle, because our work involves a lot of mobility. We get a vehicle, but we don't have the resources. Honorable members, that is a major priority. Now, on the issue of low voter turn-up, Honorable Katuntu, you have also said it, whether Ugandans have little faith in the leaders will they elect. That is not for the Commission to say. I think members can carry out a research on that one. The funding gap, yes, we have engaged the line minister on these challenges, which we have to some extent pointed out here. And as you say, the line minister is taking up some of these things. But that is not without prejudice to the fact that this committee plays a very critical role in ensuring that the Commission is well facilitated, and we pray and hope that the committee will take up as it has been doing from the time we came to the Commission and even before. I don't think someone is trying to create a crisis deliberately, Honorable Katuntu, because Article 61 Clause 2 is very clear. These elections must take place within the stipulated period. And that article has been there. It is not a new amendment. So I think everybody is aware and mindful of the command, the indelible command of Article 61 Clause 2, that these elections must take place within that particular time. And on the issue of the big capital project during elections, I think we have answered that. We need it not merely for the final settlement of the commission, which is the intended objective, but also for part of the processes of the 2026 general elections, nominations, and tally center. Because I'm told Nambole has certain restrictions now. It may not be easily taken up because they have imposed certain restrictions and so on. So Kiambogo, as I said, well, we have not contacted them whether it will be available to us for playing. And on the issue of the other questions that were raised were by, I think, I'm about to finish, I'm about to conclude. Honorable Fox, when we talk of women council elections, these are not part of the special interest group elections. They are not. The women council elections are separate from the special. I think Secretary can say more about that. Yeah, can you?
Honorable Chair and honorable members, the special interest groups under the law constitute those groups which elect councils and committees from village to national level that constitute electoral colleges for election of councillors and members of parliament. And they are the youth, persons with disabilities, and older persons. So the 98 billion shillings which was allocated under this is for purposes of electing these councils and committees of these groups. But women outside this, because women councils and committees will be elected together with LC1 and LC2.
And it is for that reason their term was harmonized. Honorable members, previously the term of office for women councils committees was 4 years, and LC 1-2 was 5 years, but that has been harmonized because every LC committee must have a representative of the women who has been elected, I think, through their women committee elections. Then I think I've talked about the issue of biometrics. On the new home, EC does not like being nomadic. We want to settle once and for all with the support of this committee. Now, Honorable Dole, you talked of violence at a certain tally center in 2021, but this is what we are talking about. Why should we have these kind of episodes? Why should we have these in an election where our desire, the desire of every Ugandan is to have a peaceful, free and fair election? So that's what we are saying, and that brings me to the other issue. What is the minimum elements for a free and fair election in Uganda? The minimum is every stakeholder observing the law, period. If every stakeholder observed the law, we can have a free and fair election in this country. Every stakeholder, irrespective of who or what you are, observe the law. We shall have a free and fair election without question. Now, there are 20 million voters, but your target is 8. I think this percentage, Secretary can talk about the NDP issues and our target, 84%. No, why not 100%? Voter registration, we were discussing that yesterday. Yeah.
Honorable members, these are targets set under the NDP. They were set under the NDP 3 because now we have embarked on NDP 4. So the percentages to work towards, as given by the National Planning Authority, we report on how much we have achieved of that. So the reporting was in line with the reporting under the NDP 3.
Then on the number of, on the 42,000 polling stations indicated on a ministerial policy statement, members, when we are planning for the general election, we have what we call projections. And in our planning, the projected figure of polling stations, we put it at 42,000 on account of the fact that we will have more voters registered. However, in the actual, when we went to the ground to organize these polling stations, that's when we came up with a figure of about 37,000. So this is not, it was not done mysteriously. It was not done with the sinister objectives to have some polling stations on the sidelines which are not known, then later on they can be juxtaposed somewhere. No, we have actual polling stations which have ascertained 37,000. Now, update and demarcation, I think I've answered this on the...
My Lord the Chairman, the point I think I was trying to make...
Yes, sir.
This is in a ministerial policy statement for a calendar year, something you intend to do from July to June. So, when you put that figure, and I think it goes back to the team that prepared it, you create unreasonable suspicion, and like what I'm saying, it should be, because it's fixed, and you are beginning July, so we don't expect you now to be reorganizing or creating polling station. It's now known within the commission. Yeah, that's why I was raising.
Thank you very much, Honorable. My only point is that when we did carry out the actual reorganization, this is the figure that we have. And I want to assure members, they will not. So this figure could therefore change slightly after we've concluded the display exercise. But what we did on the ground, basing on the figures on the number of voters we had at the time on the register at the time of demarcation, we factored in that and said the polling stations are 36,000. Now that was before carrying out the update exercise and the display which is coming. So that number could also change, Honorable Dole, depending on the figures that emerge out of that exercise. Now, the other issue of the plans to improve timely amendment, we have been reminding this August House and other stakeholders involved in the process of amending the laws that if you have any laws that you want to amend, please, you better hurry and bring them forward. Proposal now to prevent interference by security. When we are organizing these elections, honorable members, we don't factor in interference by anybody. What we factor in is that everybody will be compliant with the law and do what is required of him or her, and also follow the guidelines developed by the Commission from the legal framework. However, going forward, we propose, and I think we have started those engagements with security, on the reported incidents of their involvement or over-involvement in the electoral process. We have already started those processes, honorable members, because we don't want any person to act outside their mandate when it comes to some of these electoral processes. We don't want to distort and create a different negative trajectory about our elections and the stability of the country. Now, the 45 billion, the breakdown, I cannot give you the formula. The formula is on the basis of numerical strength in the parliament. And I think the party with the biggest number of members in parliament gets the biggest chunk, and the others will follow accordingly. I do not have the figures of what NUP gets or any other gets, so we don't have those. But if one wants, you can come to the commission, we can give you those breakdowns.
Yeah, but we have the accounting officer here. He has those figures, and now he has the formula. He can just apply the formula and get. Once you have the formula, you can get. The accounting officer is here. We shouldn't be scared of mentioning what, because it's not you determined. It's a formula which was established by the law.
Chair, through you, in order not to antagonize the stability of NUP, we don't need to raise those figures.
Political parties seeking to be registered. Honorable members, whenever we get a request from any group or people who seek to register a political party, we follow the law. And I think we have guided a number of them on what is required to do to get the supporting number of signatures. When they submit these signatures to us, honorable members, we do not just take them as a matter of course and say, yes, they have submitted the requisite number of supporting signatures and therefore approved. No, we have got to verify. We've got to verify, and we cannot do that by going to the ground to ascertain whether indeed Honorable Jonathan Odul, who is indicated on this form as supporting this party, indeed did so. And that takes us time. We have recently we advised, I think, what is this new group, Katonga group? The Katonga group. PFF. We pointed out to them the extent of the verification of the supporting signatures and where there were shortcomings, and I think they went to correct or to fill those gaps. So many. So far, I don't have the numbers of how many are in the process of being verified or ascertained as eligible for registration. But there's no way we can deliberately try to impinge or obstruct any party that has fulfilled the requirements from getting registered, Honorable Chair and members. On the issue of the allegations of stolen elections and ballots, we set up a team, as we reported, honorable members, to investigate this claim, and I think the team is still doing its work. It has already interviewed a number of witnesses in that regard, and I think in the near future they are going to conclude that exercise of investigating these thefts or malpractices in elections. Now, I now come to the issues raised by Honorable Joanne, funding gap of 179.71 billion. Which items are urgent? I think Secretary can illustrate those urgent items, then also comment on table 5. Wage enhancement. Honorable members, we are not really asking for wage enhancement. This enhancement was made by this parliament with the full support of this committee in 2017. However, it was agreed that the enhancement would be released in 3 phases. We have already received 2 phases. It is the 3rd phase that has not been received. So this, the enhancement itself was made, Honorable John, in 2017. All we are saying, let finance be told to release the last phase. That is all. The officers in Madokoro being verified, indeed we are going to look into this, Honorable John, now that there is power and internet facilities or connectivity where the district headquarters are located, because we don't want also to have our office in an isolated area when the other offices are within a given locality or location. So we are going to look into this, and if there is a available space or a building, we shall take it up and relocate this. On the issue of Honorable Asmani, Section 14A, the sharing of this facilitation to political parties represented in Parliament. Indeed, Honorable Asmani has been raising this matter time and again whenever we appear. Honorable members, when we looked at Section 14, there are 2 aspects in our interpretation, and we also made consultations about this. One, that the parties represented in Parliament are entitled to be funded by government in respect of elections and their normal day-to-day activities. Now, when it comes to elections, government shall finance political organizations and parties on equal basis. Now, in our consideration and interpretation, honorable members, we were of the view that even when we have general elections or elections, the parties that are represented in Parliament, which have been receiving this funding, continue to operate. Even in general elections, they have day-to-day activities to carry out or to undertake. Now, our view was, when it comes to elections, therefore, government should look for another tranche of money to fund political parties equally. And we raised this, we pointed it out. However, it has not been actualized. So with the support of this committee, I think a recommendation can be made that, look, the law did not say that when we have elections, the day-to-day activities of political parties which are being funded by government should cease, or the funds for that process should now be shared equally. Our view is that let there be another fund. Let there be another fund which can be shared equally among political parties during the general elections. So
But
this is our view.
Chairman.
Yes, sir.
My lord, it's not only parties that compete during general elections. They are also individuals.
Participating individuals and political parties, even those which are not represented in parliament, they have also been making an argument that if we are looking at nurturing democracy in the country, even those parties not represented in parliament should also be facilitated or enabled to grow. So, but that's not for us, honorable members. Now, on page 21, table 5, underfunded and funded, they have continued to hold by elections. Honorable members, let me say this. When it comes to by-elections for parliament, the requirement is under the Constitution. The Constitution says the Commission shall hold a by-election to fill the vacancy within 60 days. We are very careful not to breach constitutional provisions. So in most cases, actually, the accounting officer and my colleagues are here. At times, we don't have even the funds for the by-election. That because of the mandatory nature of Article, is it 81, Clause 2, we go out of our way to make sure we comply with the timeline set therein. If we are to wait for funds, and the funds come when we are left with 1 week to the expire of the 60 days, then it means we want to have that election. And it means that constituency will not have a representative for the period remaining to the expiry of the term. This is the dilemma we always find ourselves in. And that's why in the budget we are saying for by-elections, we normally anticipate that there definitely may be by-elections. Can we have this figure in the budget? But finance gives us how much? 1 billion. 1 billion. And I think the by-election in Kisoro took us how much? What was the cost, the total budget for Kisoro? It was 1.something billion, entire district. So even the 1 billion is not enough for one single by-election. See, the cost is what we do. This is not, these figures are not inflated by the commission. So that's why we say, to be on the safe side, we need about 14 or 15 billion in the budget for by-elections. But we try our level best. We even borrow some services, or get services on credit in order to ensure that we hold these by-elections to comply with the constitutional timelines. For local government, we have not been able to do that. However, what we do, if there are vacancies in local government in an area, and we have been notified about the vacancy, where we have a by-election for member of parliament, we also factor in the local government vacancies and also handle them together with the, but as we talk now, I think we have over 600 vacancies in local government which require by-elections. And that brings me to the question that was asked by Honorable, was it Honorable Cooper? Why we did not fill the vacancy for the councillor in Serere when we held the by-election there? We would, if we were notified, we would have taken it into consideration. So the question is, were we notified? If we were not notified, we wouldn't know about it. But we endeavor. I think in Kisoro, we did that. We did in Kisoro. Dokolo, did we do the same? Yes, we did. Even in Kawempe, we did the same, although there was nothing to declare because of...
Chair, these subsequent supplementaries we have, do we have the Electoral Commission benefiting from them in regard to by-elections?
Now, I understand, no?
Honorable, the answer is no.
So now, where do you get money to conduct those activities? Because if it hasn't been budgeted for, or it was budgeted but it's less than what you have actually incurred, what do you encroach on other?
And it does not even appear as a domestic area.
It doesn't. So where do you get that money from?
Yeah, normally we do a reallocation within the budget and make sure that we comply with the constitutional deadline under parliamentary election. That's what we do.
To 11 honorable members, even when that may not be possible, because we felt that a by-election is recognized in the law and it can happen anytime. In fact, yeah, exactly. And in fact, since 2021, the bulk of the by-elections we have had as a result of death. We have had very few court orchestrated by-elections. The majority are death. Dokoro, it was death. In Omoro, it was death. Or Yam North, it was death. Exactly. Kawempe, it was So by-elections are inevitable. But you look at the budget line, what we have provided for by-elections is almost nothing. So then, as I conclude, the issue of invalid votes indeed is very critical. Invalid votes is very, very critical. What are the causes? Again, this goes to vote education, civic engagement with the people. We are carrying out, our team tried to carry out a research on this concept of invalid votes. We are going to look at that report and see going forward how we can address this. And then, Honorable Secretary, whether you said I highlighted in my presentation that we organize regular, free and fair elections. Is this a reality? Yes, from our perspective, we go out to organize free and fair elections. That's our aim, objective, Honorable Secretary. But again, it goes back to what plays out eventually on the ground. What plays out on the ground? Who are the actors? Do these actors contribute to a free and fair election or unfair election? That's what we have to put our focus on. Does everybody do their bit as required of them under the law or not? Yes, so now we are saying Honorable Secretary, but the point you have raised is very critical, very important, because when you see some of these things, violence and so on and so forth, beatings and so on, those do not contribute to the process of free and fair election. So we are saying we are engaging with every stakeholder, wherever they are, and say, please, some of these practices do not promote a good or a free and fair election. So as we go to 2026, let us avoid them. So we should repent. Yes, now the recruitment of sub-counters and parish supervisors, Honorable Secretary, we send out adverts to the communities or to the areas where we need to recruit these people. They apply, look at the applications, whether they have the necessary qualifications. On the issue of integrity, that is not known to the Commission. It is known to the members of the communities where these people come from. And that's why when we have recruited them, we pin their names. Is it at the sub-county? We pin the names of those people at the sub-county. And Honorable Secretary has the liberty to come and say, Jonathan Odu, no, this person in 2021, he did funny things here. We should not be recruited. And we will not recruit that person on the basis of your recommendation. But if you don't come up to scrutinize them and tell us about their, then we want to know about that. We want to know about their integrity issues or levels. Now the other issue was Honorable Secretary, the issue of we share the responsibility of the NERA, whereas we all know NERA registered citizens. And the law says the commission can use that data of citizens provided they are 18 years and above who have expressed the willingness to vote. We can use that data to update or include them on the voters register. But the responsibility of maintaining the voters register, honorable members, as you know, is for the Electoral Commission, not any other organization. As I come to the end of the questions.
Excuse me?
Yes.
Sorry, I just wanted clarification because how do they express willingness to vote? Because I know someone who recently turned 18 and got a national ID, and automatically he was assigned a polling station, everything. I don't know if it was willingness or NERA decided that this is a voter.
Honorable John, what I know, NERA has been registering students at school or learners, even those who are not 18. I think they start from 16 years, 16, 17-year-olds. Those ones are registered as citizens, not as voters. And those ones do not indicate that I want to vote from this polling station. When you are over 18 and you are getting registered by NERA as a citizen for the first time, you can indicate that I will be voting from this polling station. However, if you are registered as a learner, as a citizen, when you are at school, now at the time of update, you are already 18 years, the commission has rolled out the update exercise. You approach the update center in the parish where you reside or you are born, and then you apply to the commission. I already have a NIN number, I'm a confirmed citizen, I want to apply to vote from this polling station because that's where the home of my parents is, or that's where I reside or originate. So since we have already observed that voting in this country is voluntary, you have to indicate that I want to participate in this election by voting from a polling station in the parish where I reside or where I'm born. So it is not that we conscript voters, if I may use the term. Our registration is not by conscription or by forceful registration of persons and say, for you, you'll be voting from this polling station. So that person must have indicated that I want to vote from this polling station, and that's why he or she was assigned to that polling station, I believe. Now, then, Honorable Cooper, the coincidence between the number of any RMO members that have been registering and the number of voters on the EC register, maybe you can call it a strange coincidence indeed. But there is no correlation. There is no correlation between the process of us registering the voters and then the registration of members of any RM, Honorable Cooper. I want to assure you of that. For us, we carry out our own independent process. And in any case, Honorable Cooper, the registration we have been carrying out of 20, we are not saying, oh, these 20 million voters were registered recently. For instance, honorable members, you all voted in 2021. You do not have to register fresh. It's only those who are not on the register who got registered. Okay? So, but if by some of our voters, and there is none.
Actually, my lord, that should not worry the EC, because in Kawempe North, they had a sizable number of voters also registered, but the results came out different.
Thank you, Honorable Jonathan. Thank you, Honorable Jonathan, for that information. I think I've answered the question of, I've answered the Honorable Elijah, I've answered the question of that Serere councillor. I wish you can urge your people to inform us that there is a vacancy here, but even when they inform us, we don't have the money to fill those vacancies for local government. We don't have the money. So it's a challenge. UBOS figures, well, I don't want to comment about UBOS figures.
Sorry, Chair.
Yes.
I just stepped out for on that. Who is supposed to inform the candidate? So it's the office that informs your office back in Serere to inform you that this has happened.
The CAO, or the Chief Administrative Officer, is supposed to inform our office that there is a vacancy here.
Okay.
Yeah. For members of Parliament, it's the Clerk to Parliament. But for councillors, district chairperson, sub-county chairperson, it is the CAO of the district.
Okay.
All right. Then finally, I think the questions that were asked by Honorable Segona about Kawempe, I think I've answered that. Since there are ongoing investigations, let us wait and see what the outcome is from those investigations.
Now that you have talked about investigations, the last time we met, 22nd January this year,
Yes,
there was a question which was put to you regarding the suspended staff over some allegations. And you said, I can only give you a full information after the investigations. How far have the investigations gone?
Chair.
That is the law. Amend the law.
Gradation level would have gone lower and lower and lower. So we discovered that these kits or these tablets will not serve us the purpose. We escalated the matter to our line minister, the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, Honorable Mao, and we are glad the minister saw the gravity of the matter. I think he has escalated the matter to cabinet. I think it's going to be discussed in cabinet. And I think the proposal now is that EC may have to revert to the previous system of getting our own biometric kits to be used at the polling session, just like we did in 2021. These are the challenges. Now, so therefore, the delay cannot be attributed to the commission. The thinking and the belief was that these UBOS kits would serve the purpose, but now we find they cannot. Then they also have other technical issues. They were procured by UBOS who did not require the citizens or the people they were registering to be identified with the fingerprints biometrically. But they have to be configured. I'm told there's a process of configuration. Me, I'm an illiterate when it comes to IT things.
Can I seek some clarification, Chair?
Yes, sir.
Because earlier on when you started making the submission, you say it was supposed to be a multi-sectoral sharing services. Did that team consult, because in arrival you should have been consulted, the user bodies should have been consulted in arriving at the specifications that this is what on our side should be incorporated, this is what should be incorporated on the side of NERA, on the side of UBOS. Were there those consultations or they were not there? They just said, we shall take care of that. Because if all that was done and then given to the supplier, then it should have been able to make the tablet fitting those specifications. And even before delivery, there are samples that will be delivered for testing, whether they meet those specifications. But hearing from you, it looks like you were not consulted. They just did it. They say it will cover everything. And here we are now.
Honorable Chair, can I be of some help to Honorable Elijah? You see, we run governments in a very casual and primitive manner. When you have older children, they outgrow their clothing. You pass them on to their younger siblings. That's what is happening here.
Chair, procedure. I think the issue we are now raising is about accountability, which does not sort out the challenge we have. We have a problem, we must sort it out. And time is of essence. Time is of what? Of essence. From what His Lordship is explaining and my own appreciation of the facts, these UBOS tablets are not going to be useful to this process. Let us conclude that, whether who did what, because this should have been a joint procurement.
Information. Information. Not only the tablets, even in the report, the census report is also.
Let me, in terms of protocol, begin with your issues or questions.